If you want to work in games, combat animation is a core skill. Together we'll create a stylized attack inspired by League of Legends and Dota 2. Join me, and in the next 30 minutes you will end up with a portfolio-ready animation shot. If you are serious about animation, check out Animation Incubator. It's a free community for animators, full of helpful resources and supporting materials. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. We'll be working with Muertarik. It's a character from Dota 2. If you want to download it for free, you can check out the link down below in this video. The amount of the control in this rig is a bit overwhelming, so I like to create a display layer and hide these elements. So we ended up with just a clear body. It's much easier to animate like this. Before jumping into animation, don't forget to set up the controls into global, because otherwise whenever you will animate the chest, everything will follow. So we didn't want that. I already recorded reference, it's pretty simple, but I like it. During the recording, try to exaggerate a few things here and there. In this stage, I'm already trying to establish major phases of my animation, which is quick transition, anticipation, strike, overlap. So we need to keep it a few frames before going back to the idle pose. And then just the end, settle down. So let's create our fast pose. Here make sure to move every single controller to make it feel more organic, especially the feet and the center of gravity. Here I will try to make it more feminine rather than following the reference in 100%. I will try to make it look like a contrapposto pose, which is shifting the balance to the one foot. Remember, in normal gameplay workflow, idle pose is super important because this is the most repeated pose in the character. So usually it would take a lot of back and forward with your director to make sure that this pose looks cool. So we ended up with something like this. Let's continue. After careful consideration, I realized, yeah, let's move this one pistol upward, closer to the head. It will be less symmetrical. Okay, so let's agree this is our final idle pose. Here I'm gonna put keyframes in every main story beat. Just before the strike and right after. Okay, let's create a second pose. What I like to do during the blocking is jump between the keyframes. This is the easiest way for me to track the movement and also compare it to the reference and solely focus on the poses rather than the movement. Actually, I'm just warning you because I'm gonna do this frequently throughout the video. Okay, let's create the third pose. This is gonna be the cool one. Our goal here is to make this reversed arm movement work. It's pretty cool in my opinion. We need to make sure that the elbow drives the movement and that we are getting this nice line throughout the arm. It will make this animation a little bit more cartoonish. Also make sure she's looking at the enemy already. Let's rotate the torso and move her arm upward. Also remember about maintaining the balance. So you might need to check your animation from different perspective all the time. Let's push this arm backward to enhance the silhouette. When I animate the torso, I always try to select all the controllers simultaneously. This way you will end up with much better curves later on, because you don't have to counter animate anything. Every controller moves at the same direction basically. Let's make sure that we are actually aiming at the enemy. Here what I want to make sure is that she's not still. She's constantly moving, even though we are trying to maintain the pose, but still we want to have some movement. Okay, and here I'm trying to push the pose, by rotating the hips and really working with this line of action. If you feel that your poses are not strong enough, you can always rotate the hips like this to improve the line of action. Make sure that this movement is pretty big, it's exaggerated. Fortunately, we did it already in our reference. Okay, and right now let's counter animate the chest because the hips are moving to the left side of the screen. It's a little bit counterintuitive because we would assume automatically that the chest should go against the blast as well. But in order to maintain the balance, it has to go to the right actually. Okay, keep in mind that after the shoot, after the big action, there is still some sort of movement, overlapping motion. Let's go to another pose. Let's try to overlap the chest here because hips are moving to the left side of the screen. Okay, let's overlap the arm as well. And here, let's animate the step backward. Okay, and right now let's fix this foot also, so it rotates through the correct pivot point. Right, so I added a few poses at the end and this is how it looks so far. It's pretty promising. Alright, so let's move to the blocking pass 2. Here in this stage we'll mainly create more breakdowns. For that, I will switch to the auto key for a second, just so Maya can help us with the creating interpolation between each poses. So right now let's work on this breakdown. We got the base, but what we need to do is create this overlapping action. Alright, let's start the spanning. And as you can see, we lost a lot of energy that we had before in the blocking. Everything seems to be floaty and moving with the even tempo. So we need to speed up certain moments, for example strike, the beginning and the ending for sure. We want to have this nice contrast with fast movement and getting to the still position. So the character is moving and then it's holding the pose. Let's clean up the curves as usual. Okay, let's animate the torso. Since we were animating these controllers simultaneously at the same time, these curves roughly are moving into the same direction. They're not working against each other. And that's actually really important if you want to get this smooth torso movement. Alright, let's set up the camera angle. I will move it above the character, something similar to the gameplay perspective, like in the Dota 2. And let's add a grid for the reference so we can see how the character moves. Right, let's retime it even more. And I will continue doing this until I find some good timing, something that feels right. To me, the rest of the animation felt a little bit floaty. Everything was moving really slowly, like underwater. So I just grabbed these curves and compressed them. Remember, it's a gameplay animation, so it has to be dynamic. So after retiming, I probably butchered some of these curves, so I have to go to the graph editor and make another cleanup. If I'm happy with the results and I'm done with the graph editor, I can move to the motion trail and polish the trajectory. I will start with the hips because they are the source of the movement, and everything will be driven by them. Let's polish the foot. Make sure the foot is rotated through the correct pivot point. Don't just slide the biggest controller. Use the channel box or these smaller controls. Let's animate another foot. Don't just simply put the foot on the ground during the step. Always try to add some detail, some additional motion. Okay, right now let's polish torso. Let's overlap the chest during this motion. Okay, and let's create this nice overlap at the end of the animation. We can settle down to the idle pose. Okay, and now we can clean up the calves. Usually they are moving at the same direction. This is why I was telling you to select all the controllers at the same time during the posing. We're getting closer, let's animate the head. Here we can add some small overlap that will soften the animation. This looks pretty good. Be careful though, we don't want to make it too floaty. There's a fine line between having a cool overlap and floatiness. What I meant by that is that this secondary motion can't be moving all the time. So it has to happen after specific moments in your animation, for example, broad movement, but it can't last for too long because otherwise it will steal the attention from your pose. The pose won't be readable anymore. And we don't want that. We want to make sure that the character stays in this pose and it's super clear. Okay, we finished with the head, so now we can move on to polishing both arms. After getting a nice arc trajectory, we need to make sure that the shoulder is leading the movement and it's overlapping at the end. Alright, and now let's switch to the end. And here we want to get this nice overlapping motion of the arm, like we did before for the chest. After you finish, you want to get something like this. Circular back and forward movement without abrupt stop. Okay, and right now let's move on to the shooting part. So of course, Gunshot has to be really broad, really huge and impactful, but to make it cooler, just one frame earlier I want to create this one small anticipation. It will make this spacing much more cooler. Just one frame and then pow! You know, Gun shoots the bullet. And of course here we want to get this overlapping motion for the forearm, like this. Usually we are doing the opposite, but here in this case the palm will drive the movement because it's directly connected to the gun, so it has to move first. Then elbow will continue the movement and then energy goes through the arm to the shoulder. So the shoulder will move at the end. And then energy will translate to the chest and to the entire body. So here in this exact moment we can delay the clavicle and shoulder by a few frames. To make it more dramatic is by adding a charge before the gunshot. So to do that we need to create an additional layer, select all of the arms controller and create simple animation for now, okay? Just rotate it a little bit upward and just copy it here. So it goes back and forth. Let's go to the graph editor, and we need to add additional values to other axes. And that's how you add complexity to the shake movement, so it's no longer just moving up and down, but it basically rotates in every possible axis. To improve it even more, we can break down the movement by delaying each arm controller. So in this case, palm has to move at first and the shoulder as the last one, right? Because the vibration comes from the gun. To refine it even further, we can grab each curve and offset it by 1 or 2 frames. That's how we shift the highest points of the curves from each other, and it will create this nice circular movement. Let's animate the hair. I will start by grabbing ponytail and just create some simple blocking, few simple poses, nothing complex. Here I wanted to showcase wind blowing on the hair. We need to also create some breakdown with overlapping hair. Here I wanted to make sure that hair are staying a little bit longer in the air, so they won't drop to the back immediately. It will create this double gust of the wind effect. In my opinion, a little bit more interesting, right? It will last longer. I need to admit though, it was pretty sketchy to animate and getting these overlaps just right. Alright, let's animate the cape, and as you can see there are a lot of controls, so it's gonna take a while to animate. For now I will just pose it in the basic position. I'll just create a shortcut button for us in the script editor. So clean it first, start selecting what you want, and then copy it into the shelf with Mel. Alright, let's do some posing. I will start from the beginning here and add some overlaps. So the cloth has to basically follow throughout the entire length of animation. So nothing really super complicated, just a little bit exhausting because of the amount of the controls that we have. And honestly, the only challenging moment is right here. It's when the gust of wind will hit the cape. Alright, let's add some placeholder effects to our animation. It will elevate our shot to the next level. We'll start by creating ring wave with the simple torus shape, and I will just animate a few parameters. And now I want to animate the fire coming out of the barrel. For that I will use a simple shape like sphere and make it gradually growing and flickering more and more until it explodes. Okay, it looks pretty cool. Let's animate the camera right now. So as the first step, I want to just follow the character. So let's create animation layer. And to build up the tension, I will bring the camera closer to the character. And once she fires, I will move back the camera to the starting point so we get this nice juicy accent. And to increase the tension, I will add some camera shake. Remember to work on layers. So same technique like we did with the gun, just create several keys that goes back and forward equally like a vibration. You can see it right here. Bring them in the same level and offset them from each other by 1 frame. So the extreme point won't happen in the same frame basically. Alright, thanks for watching. If this video was helpful, consider subscribing and leaving a like. It really helps the channel. And if you are serious about becoming an animator, check out Animation Incubator. It's a free community where you can access additional learning materials, watch more in-depth courses, and even work directly with me to improve your animation skills. Alright, I will see you inside the community.